हरे कृष्णा। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा. So welcome back to the 7th day of this course, part 4 of this course, Rediscovering Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So for the past few days we have been discussing on the 5 most potent limbs of devotional service, in which we have already discussed. We are currently discussing the 4th limb. We started with discussing Shri Murter Angri Sevane Preeti, an attachment to serving the lotus feet of the deity. Then we discussed about relishing Srimad Bhagavatam, Shri Bhagavata Artha Aswadaha, relishing the nectarian message of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then the third limb that we discussed was Sajatiya Ashe Snigdha Shri Bhagavad Bhakta Sango, association with like-minded affectionate devotees. And the fourth limb that we are currently discussing now is Shri Nama Sankirtanam. So I will do a brief recap of what we have seen till now in this limb. So the first theme that we discussed was how chanting of the holy names is the most powerful limb of this age. Of course, for in any age for that matter, because Srimad Bhagavatam is a timeless classic, timeless literature. Etan nirvidyamananam ichchatam akuto bayam yoginam nripa nirnitam harer namanu kirtanam. So in response to Parikshit Maharaj's question as to what is the best thing for a person to do at all times, and especially for a person at the time of death, Shukadeva Goswami responded by mentioning Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Harihi Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyascha Ichchata Abhayam. He mentions the process of bhakti with its 3 prominent limbs of Shravanam, Kirtanam and Smaranam. And then of the 3, in this verse, Srila Shukadeva Goswami says, whatever may be the practice of a person, whether it may be Sankhya Yoga Abhyam, Etan Nirvidyamananam Ichchatam Akuto Bhayam, Yoginam Nripa Nirnitam, Harer Namanu Kirtanam. Whether one may be a Sankhya Yogi or a Bhakti Yogi or a Ashtanga Yogi or a Karma Yogi, the ultimate perfection that he can attain is by taking up to the process of Harinam Sankirtan. So, we discussed this little bit detail as to how by practicing Harinam Sankirtan, all of one's desires are fulfilled, whether one is a yogi aspiring for liberation or Ashtasiddhis, or if it's a jnani aspiring for liberation, or if it is a karmi aspiring for swarga or purification of heart, or if it's a devotee aspiring for prema, the quickest way of attaining it is by taking shelter of the Harinam Sankirtan process. So then we started discussing the glories of the holy name from the episode of Ajamil. So as we saw yesterday, that the Yamadutas had come to take Ajamil to Yamaloka, and at the same time Vishnudutas also arrived, and there is an argument between the two of them. Then the Vishnudutas asked Yamadutas to explain about what is dharma. They explained, and then they asked, why are you taking Ajamil away? You tell his history. They explain his history with the conclusion that he has committed so many sinful activities, but this person has not atoned for any of his sins. There has been no karmakandya prayaschitta performed. So therefore, where is the question of nullification of those sinful reactions? So in order to suffer for those sinful reactions, he has to be taken to the hellish planets. This is their conclusion. So in response, the Vishnudutas had started answering their understanding of what is atonement for devotees. So the Vishnudutas said, Ayam hi krita nirvesho janma koti amhasamapi yad vyajahara vivasho nama swastyayanam harehe. Ayam hi krita nirvesho. Don't you know? You should go back to your master Yamaraj and ask if he has taught you everything. So now let us tell you the real meaning of dharma, the complete meaning of dharma. Ayam hi krita nirvesho janmakoti amhasamapi. This person, Ajamil, has performed atonement for the sins that he has committed for 10 million births. So this would have really shocked the Yamadutas. When did he do this? We never saw him. Vivasho Vyajahara Harehe Swastyanam Nama. When he helplessly called out for the name of Lord Narayan, all the sins committed for millions of lifetimes has been destroyed. So then one may say, but Ajamil did not chant with awareness that by chanting this holy name I will destroy all the sins. So he called out just because he had some affection for his son. How is that considered as atonement? So the Vishnudutas say, Etenaiva hi agonosya kritam syad aganishkritam yada narayanayati jagada chatur aksharam. When he chanted the 4 syllables Narayana, atonement for all the sins that he has been committed has already been accomplished. So, because you have a materialistic mindset, you are not able to understand the real truth of this matter. Please keep aside your materialistic logic in trying to understand what is the potency of the holy name. What to speak of chanting the full syllables, full 4 syllables of the name Narayana? Even one of those syllables when chanted is capable of destroying all the sins. So even by calling for his son, while not seeking any atonement, atonement is automatically accomplished. So even though he had chanted in ungrammatical language, just like you might call your son in a lot of pet names, but still all that atonement is accomplished. Not only that, Stenaha, Surapo, Mitradrug, Brahmaha, Gurutalpaga, Stri Raja Pitru Gohanta, Yecha Patakino Pare, Sarvesham api agavatam, idam eva sunishkritam, Nama Swastyanam, Nama Vyaharanam Vishnur Yatastad Vishaya Matihi. He says, whatever may be the greatest sin that you can imagine, killing of cows, killing of brahmanas, killing of the king, trying to enjoy inappropriately with the wife of one's own guru. These are the most terrible sins. Sarvesham api agavatam. In this way, all other types of sins, Nama Vyaharanam Vishnoho. By chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, not only does it destroy the sin, but it attracts the attention of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord becomes very attentive to that person. Oh, here is a new devotee of mine. Now to take care of him is my responsibility. Like that, Krishna starts thinking. So he says that Na nishkritair uditair brahmavadibis tata vishudyat agavan vratadibihi yata harer nama padair udahritais taduttama shloka gunopalambakam. It is mentioned that why is it that the holy name is so powerful compared to all the other elaborate atonement procedures? How could the holy name become so powerful in destroying the sins? he says, Tad Uttama Shloka Gunopalambakam, because chanting the holy name produces realization of his qualities, realization of his form, realization of his pastimes, and one starts making rapid progress on the path of devotional service just by chanting the holy name. Yad Uttama Shloka Gunopalambakam. The holy name is not ordinary. The holy name is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Abhinnatvad Nama Namino. So one should not underestimate the potency of the holy name, to think that it has only limited potency. So then one may say that naikantikam taddi kritepi nishkrite mana punar dhavati ched asatpate tat karma nirharam abhipsatam harer gunanuvada kalu sattva bhavana. And he says that tadhi krite nishkrite api, since even after atonement, the nature of atonement is that manaha punar asatpate davati, the mind again pursues material enjoyment. Tad ekantikam karma nirharam abhipsatam. Therefore, for those who desire complete destruction of material desire, harer guna anuvadaha kalu sattva bhavana. Chanting the holy names and qualities of the Supreme Lord is the only means of purification. So, he says that these atonements, one may perform atonement, but again the desire to commit that sinful activity is not gone by performance of atonements. But one may say, and in fact, if you see this whole canto, the 6th canto starts with this conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadeva Goswami. Towards the end of 5th canto, Shukadeva Goswami had described elaborately about the various kinds of hellish planets and how people suffer there for their sinful activities. But Parikshit Maharaj, being a genuine Vaishnava, felt very much compassionate hearing this. So he asked with great compassion, my dear Shukadeva Goswami, how is it that these kind of sinful people can escape these kind of hellish suffering? I feel very bad for them. So at this point of time, Shukadeva Goswami had already spoken 4 cantos, because the first canto was not exactly spoken to Parikshit Maharaj. 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, 4 cantos are over. And he wanted to test how Parikshit Maharaj had heard the subject matter. So he presents that, by performing karmakandiya atonements, one can atone for all the sins that one has performed. So in this way, one need not suffer in hell. As soon as Parikshit Maharaj heard this, he could not tolerate. He said, Manye kunjara shauchavat. How is it possible? Kvachit nivartate abhadrat kvachit charati tat punah prayaschittam ato apartam manye kunjara shauchavat. If I have observed people who perform karmakandi atonements, even after performing karmakandi atonements, their desire to commit sin does not go away. For some time they stay away from those sinful activities, thinking that no, it is bad, I will suffer because of this. But after some time they helplessly get dragged. So therefore, for this reason, I reject this atonement. It is like an elephant taking bath. So it is not very potent. Then, of course, Shukadeva Goswami gives the second option of Jnana Kanda. Tapasa brahmacharyena shamena cha jamena cha yogena sattva sauchabhyam yamena niyamena va, and so on he describes. But still Parikshit Maharaj is not happy. Then understanding that, okay, he has heard properly, so he will not accept anything other than bhakti. So Shukadeva Goswami says, Kechit kevalaya bhaktya Narayana Parayana Sudurlabha Prashantatma Kotishwapi Mahamuni. He says that actually only Kevala Bhakti can protect a person, he says. Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya. So at that point of time, Parikshit Maharaj could have again rejected Bhakti because he had rejected Karmakanda, because even after performing Karmakandi atonements, the sinful tendencies are seen in the practitioners of Karmakanda. This Parikshit Maharaj had observed, so he objected to this. But in our own life, in the life of devotees also, at least sadhakas, till Anartha Nivritti is complete, we see this tendency in devotees also. Kvachin nivartate abhadrat kvachit charati tat punah. Sometimes one may stay away from performing sinful activities, but after some time when the temptation is too strong, the person may succumb to it. So if Parikshit Maharaj is rejecting Karmakanda because of this nature, then he should have rejected Bhakti also, because the same tendencies are seen in devotees also sometimes, many times. But interestingly, Parikshit Maharaj did not reject Bhakti. So that is the point. So he says that Tat karma nirharam abhipsatam harer gunanuvada kalu sattva bhavana. Because Parikshit Maharaj was himself a perfected devotee, and he had seen devotees at various stages of their devotional development. And he had also heard about the glories of bhakti from Shukadeva Goswami. So he knew that even though in the initial stages it may be difficult to immediately overcome the sinful tendencies, but then over a period of time gradually the sinful tendencies go away. When one progresses from Anartha Nivritti to Nishtha to Ruchi to Asakti to Bhava and Prema, the sinful tendencies and unfavorable desires slowly go away. So Parikshit Maharaj had heard about it, he had also seen it, he must have probably also experienced it in his own life. So therefore, tat karma nirharam abhipsatam harer, tad atyantikam karma nirharam. Therefore, those who desire complete destruction of all sinful reactions, including the sinful desires, gunanuvada kalu sattva bhavana. The best way is to chant the glories and holy names of the Supreme Lord. So this was presented by Vishnu Dutas to the Yamadutas. So, but someone may, we discussed this, someone may say, the Karmakandi may also say, look, you all have double standards. When you say, when I criticize that, see, your devotees also, after practicing bhakti, sometimes they commit sinful activities. You say, oh, those sinful activities are like just the biting of a snake with broken fangs. It is not poisonous. But when you see the same sinful tendencies present in Karmakandis, you criticize them. So we will also say, those sinful tendencies present in the Karmakandis is like biting of a snake with broken fangs. It will not have any effect. If you say, why can't I say? So then the question is, where is the pramana for this? Where is the proof for this? The Shastras clearly speak in every Purana which describes the glory of bhakti. The process of bhakti is clearly mentioned that it destroys the sinful desires, sinful vasanas. But nowhere in the most illustrious Karmakandiya scripture which really glorifies the path of Karmakanda, even in such scriptures you don't see description of how practice of Karmakanda actually destroys the sinful desires. So therefore it is simply an imagination You don't just speak out of your own opinion. Please speak from Shastras. How can you make your claim since there are no statements in the scriptures concerning atonement which claim destruction of desires? There is no scripture which talks about sinful desires getting destroyed by practice of karmakanda. So, therefore they say, Atainam mapanayata krita ashesha aga nishkritam yad asau bhagavan nama mriyamanaha samagrahit. Ata therefore, yenam ma apanayata, please do not take this Ajamil away. Krita ashesha aga nishkritam, who has committed unlimited atonements for all the sins that he has committed. Why? Asau Bhagavan Nama Mriyamanaha Samagrahit. Because at the time of death he took the name of the Supreme Lord with great determination. Samagrahit. Therefore, this is possible only in a sinless person. Only a sinless person can take the name of the Lord with great determination and at the time of death. He quotes 2 verses to substantiate this point. To chant with great determination, Yesham to antagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridhavrata. So only such a person can chant the holy name with great determination or perform devotional service with great determination. One whose sinful desires are gone. And also he says, Yesham to antagatam, antakale tu mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. Ya prayati samadbhavam yati nastatra samshaya. And at the time of death, if someone takes my name, he will come to my abode. Don't you know this? So therefore, he is telling that, and elsewhere also, it is mentioned in the episode of Ajamil, that Ajamil actually had a long lifetime, more than 100 years, almost 100 years. But because of committing so many sinful activities, one's current activities also contribute to karma. So, according to the Yamaduta's calculations, his lifespan had gone down from 100 to about 88 or something like that. That's why they had come to take away. So now, because he chanted the holy name helplessly, and all those sinful reactions had been atoned for, again 88 became 100. But Yamadutas did not know this secret of holy name. So they came to take him away, 88 gone. That's why, because he had chanted the holy name, and all atonements were accomplished, 88 became 100 again. So the Vishnudutas came, they rescued Ajamil, and then they went back to Vaikunta. Ajamil did not go with them. Ajamil neither went with the Yamadutas nor went with the Vishnudutas. He stayed back. And from there he went to Haridwar, and for the remaining 12 years of his life, he performed very intense devotional service, attained prema, and then went back home, back to Godhead. So therefore he says, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. He remembered me. He remembered the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can you come and take? And moreover, it is not time for him to leave his body also, because all the atonements had been done. Your calculation is wrong. So it is just like a person who is expecting, who has given a loan to someone, and that loan has not been paid back in cash, but the person has done an NEFT or he has made an online deposit. So this person has not checked this online deposit, and he is still waiting for the money to be paid, and he comes to capture this person, and he says, oh, I have already paid. When did you pay? I paid it online. But this person did not know about the online transactions, therefore he has come. Similarly, the Vishnuduta, the Yamadutas did not know about the atoning potency of the holy name. Therefore, they came to capture Ajamil. But then, because every sin had been atoned, his lifespan also increased to the original lifespan of 100. So, he stayed till 100, 12 years, he performed devotional service and perfected his life. So, this is where we ended our previous discussion. So, now we will continue. There are few more verses glorifying the holy name from the episode of Ajamil. We will see that. The Vishnudutas say, what to speak of properly chanting the holy name? Sanketyam parihasyam va stobam helanameva va vaikuntanama grahanam asheshagaharam viduhu. Sanketyam. Sanketyam means if one chants the holy name, calling out someone else, not the Supreme Lord, Sanketyam. Or Parihasyam means in a joking or friendly manner, if one chants the holy name. Stobam. Stobam means to use the holy name as a filler for, chanting various verses in order to complete the meter or something like that. I remember long time back, I used to listen to South Indian classical music. And in that South Indian classical music, there was one musician who was very much known for, when he used to do alap. So, he used to use the word Hari Hari as filler wherever, But of course, in a devotional way only. He had devotion for the Lord also. So, this is Stobam, in order to using the name of the Lord as a filler to complete the meter. Or Helanam. Helanam means even neglectfully one may chant. So, but one should understand that in all these four types of chanting, it is assumed that the person does not have a offensive attitude towards the Supreme Lord or the devotees. So, Ashesha Agaharam Viduhu, even if the Supreme Lord's name is chanted in Sanketyam, Parihasyam, Stobam, Helanam, but still it has the capacity to destroy unlimited sins. Not only that, Patitah Skalito Bagnaha Sandashta Tapta Ahata Harir iti Avashenaha Puman Narhati Yatana. So, he says, even if a person Harihi iti Avashena Aha, who chants the name of the Lord, Patitaha, while falling from a cliff, Skhalitaha, when he slips on the road and he is falling, he says, Krishna, and then he falls down. And Bhagnaha, when receiving an injury in his body, he chants the holy name of the Lord. Taptaha, when he is getting burnt by fever, unable to tolerate if he chants the holy name. Ahata, or if he is attacked with some instrument, then he chants the holy name. So even under such circumstances only, if one chants the holy name, he will not suffer hellish punishment. Under normal circumstances, he may not chant. But under these extreme circumstances, even if under such extreme circumstances, once or twice if he chants the holy name, even that chanting of the holy name will save him from hellish punishment. He does not have to go to hell. But one may say, look, I don't understand what you're talking about. Because what we understand is, if a small sin is committed, there is a small atonement. If a medium sin is committed, there is a medium atonement. If there is a huge sin committed, there is a very long, excruciating type of atonement. But you are telling one holy name, Hari or Krishna, is for small sin, medium sin, big sin, unlimitedly big sin. For everything, one holy name is enough. This is not reasonable. You go to a shop and someone pays 10 rupees, he gets one pen, and another person gives 10 rupees and purchases the whole shop. Is it possible? So therefore they say, the Yamadutas may say, this doesn't seem all right. How can one small holy name and this big sin, how is it possible to neutralize? So the Vishnudutas says, Gurunam cha lagunam cha guruni cha laguni cha prayaschittani papanam gyatvoktani maharshabhihi. We understand your point. It is true that when it comes to atonements, that for a small sin there are small atonements, for a big sin that there are big atonements. This is the understanding of great rishis. But the point is, if you think the holy name is also like these ritualistic atonements, then it is the 8th offense. The holy name is non-different from Krishna. The holy name is not no ordinary ritualistic activity. So, according to the gravity of the sin, the scriptures say that one must do a correspondingly severe austerity. How is it by chanting once in Namabhas, all the gravest of the sins are being destroyed? Why? Because the atonements have limited power. Therefore, such arrangements are prescribed. However, heaps of serious sins are destroyed by chanting once even a small part of the holy name, not even the complete holy name. Like for example, when Balramji went to appease Duryodhana and ask him to return Samba. So Duryodhana started insulting Balramji and he would not return Samba. So literally Balramji took out his plow, hit it on the Duryodhana's kingdom and literally dragged the whole kingdom of Hastinapur to drown it in Yamuna. So now one may ask, how is it possible for one person to drag a whole city? In ordinary life, we have never seen anyone do it. But Balramji is no ordinary person. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It may not be possible for ordinary people to do. Does it mean that it will not be possible for Balramji also to do? Avajananti mam moda manushim tanumashritam parambhava majananto mama bhuta maheshwaram, Krishna says. This is the problem with people. When I come like a human being, they think that I am a human being only. So therefore they try to judge me according to what they can do and they cannot do. But am I one of them? I may look like one of them, but I am not one of them. Similarly, the holy name may seem very simple thing, but the holy name is not one of the karmakandiya prayaschitta. That is why the 8th offense is to think that the holy name is one of the ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, karmakanda. So therefore one should not think in that material consciousness. How can one small holy name destroy all the sinful tendencies, sinful reactions like that? And then in the 17th verse, the Vishnudutas say the distinct difference between the holy name and the other karmakandi activities. Taistanyagani puyante tapodana vratadibihi nadarmajam tad hridayam tadapi shangri sevaya. Taistani aghani puyante. All these various types of sinful reactions can be purified. Tapodana vrata adibihi, by tapasya, by charity, by performing vows, etc. Na adharmajam, but they cannot destroy the birthplace of sinful actions, that is sinful desires. Na adharmajam tad hridayam, they cannot destroy the sinful desires that one has within one's heart. Tadapi Ishangri Sevaya. Only by serving the lotus feet of the Lord. And one of the prominent ways of serving the lotus feet of the Lord is by chanting His holy names. Only by serving the lotus feet of the Lord do sinful desires also can be destroyed. Otherwise, all these various kinds of vrata, dana, tapa and other kinds of atonements can at the most destroy the sinful reactions. Ajnanat vagnanat uttama shloka namayat sankirtitam agam pumso dahed edo yatanalah. Ajnanat atava jnanat, whether unconsciously or consciously, with knowledge or without knowledge, when one chants the holy name of the Lord, it destroys a man's sins just as fire destroys dry grass. Then one may say, but all said and done, Ajamil did not chant by understanding these glories of the holy name. Abhi Ajamil idhar hi leta hai. Ajamil is lying down right here. Ask Ajamil, did you know that the holy name was so powerful that you chanted? Look, he says that he does not know. So how can you take him back? How can you ask us not to take him back? He didn't know any of these things about the holy name. He says, they say, yatagadam viryatamam upayuktam yadrichaya ajanatopi atmagunam kuryan mantropi udahritah. Look, Yamadutas, if a person is sick and if the doctor gives him a medicine, even though and it may be a powerful medicine, and even if that person takes it without knowledge, let's say his family members crush that medicine and mix it in dal or something and serve him and he takes it. Even though he does not know that he is taking a strong medicine along with the dal, but the disease gets cured. Similarly, so the chanting of the name also produces effects quickly, even though one may have chanted it without knowing the true powers of the holy name. So, therefore, in this way, in this episode of, there are many other verses which glorify the holy name from the episode of Ajamil. But for now, I think these are this is a powerful section where the Vishnudutas are establishing the potency of holy name to the Yamadutas. A very embarrassing lesson that the Yamadutas received, but nevertheless very, very valuable lesson. So in this way, Bhagavatam glorifies the holy name, especially in this episode of Ajamil. Further glories of the holy name from other Shastras as quoted by Rupa Goswami that we will see. A verse from the Adi Puran where Krishna says, Gitva cha mama namani vicharen mama sannidhahu iti bravimi te satyam kritoham tasya charjuna. Krishna is telling Arjuna, Gitva cha mama namani, by chanting my holy names, vicharen mama sannidhahu, a person will attain a position close to me. Iti bravimi te satyam, I make this promise, kritoham tasya charjuna, that person purchases me, O Arjuna. Just by chanting the holy name of the Lord, Krishna tells Arjuna that person can purchase me. Another verse from the Padma Puran. Yena janma sahasrani vasudevo nishevitah tanmuke harinamani sada tishtanti bharata. So he says that how rare is it to chant the holy name of the Lord. Harinamani sada tishtanti, the holy name always resides in the mouth, tad mukhe, of that person. Yena vasudevo nishevitah janma sahasrani. Only such a person who has served Vasudeva for 1,000 lifetimes, in his mouth the holy name will manifest, indicating the rarity of such a thing and how glorious is that holy name. In order to increase that person's eagerness for devotion, the Lord by his own will make that person take repeated birth. So one may doubt after reading this verse, 1,000 births he has served the lotus feet of Krishna, till Krishna has not taken this person back. So should I serve Krishna's lotus feet or not? So he says, so Jiva Goswami clarifies here. Krishna, under some circumstances, in order to increase the eagerness of the person, he may make him stay in this material world for a few more lifetimes. Like that. So again, we have to see the focus of this verse is not that Krishna takes 1,000 lifetimes to take that person back. That is not the focus. The focus is the rarity of holy name. How rare and precious is the holy name. So therefore, one should not take a verse and interpret it in any way we want. Every verse or every episode of Srimad Bhagavatam has a particular focus, and that focus is clarified by the Acharyas. So we have to accept the explanations given by the Acharyas, like that. Another verse from the Padma Puran. Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Abhinnatvan Nama Naminoho. So this is a beautiful verse glorifying the holy name of the Lord. There are many elements glorifying the holy name. First he says, Nama Chintamani. The holy name is Chintamani, which fulfills all the desires of the person. Nama Chintamani, Krishna. So Chintamani means it fulfills all the desires. So if one chants the holy name for some material benefits, one will get material benefits. If one chants the holy name for liberation, one will get liberation. If one chants the holy name for prema, he will get prema. Krishna. The holy name is non-different from Krishna. It is the very form of Krishna. It is mentioned that the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifested in two merciful forms. One form is his own personal form, and another form is the form of the holy name. So the holy name is non-different from Krishna. The holy name, our name is a representation of ourself. But Krishna's name is not a representation of Krishna. Krishna's name is Krishna. It is as potent as Krishna. Just as one can pray to the Supreme Lord, one can pray to the holy name. So therefore, Nama Chintamanihi. The holy name is a desire fulfilling Chintamani. Krishna, it is not different from Krishna. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Vigraha means personification. So the holy name is a personification of consciousness and rasa. The holy name is conscious. The holy name, one can experience a sweet mellow with the holy name. That is how great acharyas in our parampara have literally glorified holy name like anything. So it is Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Purna Shuddho. It is Purnaha, it is Shuddhaha, it is Nitya Mukto. It is complete, it is pure, and it is eternally liberated. It's not that holy name is one part and the holy name needs the assistance of all the other parts to become complete. It is not like that. The holy name in itself is complete. The holy name in itself is pure. and it is eternally liberated, just like Krishna. Krishna is complete. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Krishna is complete. The holy name is complete. Krishna is pure. Saparyagat Shukram Akayam Avrinam Asnaviram Shuddham Apapa Viddam. Ishopanishad says. Is completely pure. The holy name is also completely pure. Nitya Mukto. The holy name is eternally liberated, just like Krishna is eternally liberated. How is it that the holy name has so much potency? Abhinnatvad nama namino. Because of the non-difference between the nama and nami. Therefore, the holy name has all the qualities that Krishna has. Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Abhinnatvad Nama Namino. Because of the non-difference between the Nama and Nami, therefore the holy name is non-different from Krishna. So therefore, one may say, we have heard, now we are hearing, holy name is Chintamani. It fulfills all of one's desires. But we also say, we also hear about the potency of the holy name in Shikshashtakam. The first benefit of the holy name is Cheto Darpanamarjanam. It cleanses the heart of all the desires. Now the question is holy name Chintamani, or does holy name fulfill the desires in the form of Chintamani, or does holy name destroy the desire by cleansing the heart? What is true? Both cannot be true. So if one chants the holy name with a desire for mukti, will he get mukti, or will the holy name purify his heart of the desire for mukti? If someone worships the holy name with a desire for material sense gratification, will the holy name award him that material sense gratification because the holy name is Chintamani? Or will it cleanse his heart of the desire for material sense gratification because the holy name is also Cheto Darpanamarjanam? So what is the right understanding? Because both cannot be true. Either it cleanses or it fulfills. The understanding of this particular seeming controversy lies in one of the earliest discussions that we had at the beginning of this course. Part 1, day 1 and day 2. Part 1, day 1, 2, 3, we had discussed about are you practicing pure devotional service? So in that section we discussed about desires born out of one's value system and desires born out of one's conditioning. Shraddha and Swabhava. So we discussed about this. So there are desires which we have which are born out of our Shraddha or value system, which we think is right. So if a pure devotee prays, Krishna, please let me overcome my shortcomings and let me please you in a favorable way. And if he prays this to the holy name says, Tatastu, very soon it will happen. Whereas that same person may be troubled by lust, anger, greed, etc. Even though they may be present in the form of desires. But when he sees it as an obstacle, oh, this is an obstacle, this is an obstacle. So even though it manifests in the form of a desire, he prays to the holy name to cleanse the heart of those desires. So those desires which are born out of conditioning and which are unfavorable for our progress in devotional service, holy name cleanses. This is the meaning of Cheto Darpanamarjanam. But those desires which are born out of our value system, which we really don't see it, we see it as a goal and we don't see it as a stumbling block to attaining our goal. So such desires holy name fulfills. So for example, a devotee may have desire for mukti, pure devotee, which means not wanting to suffer. Like for example, no one wants to suffer due to this COVID virus. This is there. But then the devotee feels embarrassed to pray to the Supreme Lord for that. The devotee feels that, my dear Lord, whatever is necessary for me to favorably worship you, please fulfill please give me that. He may not say, Krishna, please ensure that I should never suffer from COVID. A true devotee will feel embarrassed to make such a prayer. So a true devotee, he may internally not want to suffer, but he knows that this desire to not want to suffer is not the highest desire and I have to give it up. He knows, but he may still be embarrassed by that desire. Whereas a Jnana Yogi, he may also chant the holy name. And he may say, Krishna, please give me mukti. The holy name says, Tathastu, take it, go away. So the holy name will give him mukti. Muktim dadati karhichit smana bhakti yogam. But a pure devotee who will ask for nothing, including mukti, is very rare. And such a person may see, even though he may be tormented by desire for bhukti and mukti, he knows that these are roadblocks, these are stumbling blocks, these are speed breakers in my achieving my goal of prema. So if one sees prema as the goal and sees desire for mukti, bhukti, etc. as stumbling blocks, the holy name does chetodarpana marjanam, cleanses the heart of those desires, whereas it acts as chintamani to provide him the goal of Krishna prema. So in this way, the holy name acts both as chintamani and chetodarpana marjanam, as a cleansing agent, as a desire fulfilling stone and as a cleansing agent. It fulfills those desires which are born out of our value system and cleanses those desires which are born out of our conditioning. So therefore there is no contradiction here. It is simultaneously chintamani and it is also a cleansing agent, chetodarpana marjanam, like that. Then another verse he quotes from the Padma Purana. Atah Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Grahyam Indriyaihi Sevonmukehi Jihvadau Swayameva Spuratyadaha. So he says, Atah Shri Krishna Nama Adi, Krishna's holy name, form, qualities, pastimes, etc. Na Indriyaihi Grahyam Bhaved, cannot be grasped or understood or realized by material senses. Sevonmukehi, seva unmukha. But when a person becomes favorably disposed towards accepting the holy name, the holy deity and all that, swayameva spuratyadaha, Krishna then spontaneously appears, jihva adav, in the tongue and in all the other senses. So therefore, swayameva spuratyadaha indicates that the holy name is independent. Just like Krishna is independent, the holy name is independent. When the holy name, when Nam Prabhu sees a favorable attitude in the practitioner, in a very devotional attitude, then he chooses to appear in the tongue of that person. So this is called as Atah Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Grahyam Indriyaihi Sevonmukehi Jihvadau Swayameva Spuratyadaha. Sevonmukhe means inclined to accept the Lord's name and form. Like that. There is a description of Bharata as he gave up the body of a deer. So we all know the story of Bharat Maharaj, who was a great devotee, but due to the arrangement of the Supreme Lord, he became attached to a deer, and therefore he got the body of a deer. But while he was giving up the body of the deer, before he would accept the body of Jadabharata, spontaneously while leaving the body, the holy name appeared on the tongue of Bharat Maharaj, who was in the form of a deer. So therefore it is mentioned, Narayanaya Haraye Namayityudaram Hasyan Mrigatvam Api Yaha Samudajahara. Samudajahara. When he was giving up his body of a deer, spontaneously the holy name appeared on his tongue. Meaning that the holy name is independent, just like Krishna. There is also the case of Gajendra. Evam vyavasito buddhya samadaya manohridi jajapa paramam japyam pragjanmani anushikshitam. What Gajendra learnt in previous lifetime, that remembrance came to Gajendra in the next lifetime when he was caught by the crocodile's mouth, and spontaneously he chanted the holy name of the Lord. So in this way the holy name is independent, just like the Supreme Lord, transcendental. It is not an ordinary name. Our name and our self are different. Our name is only a representation of ourself, whereas for the Supreme Lord, the holy name is non-different from his self. Finally, we will discuss Rupa Goswami's own glorification of the holy name. Yadavadi mama shita vainikena shrutimatam agashatror namagata prayata anavakalita purvam hantakamapyavastam tadavadi dadadantar manasam samyativa. He says, ever since I have heard Narada Muni singing the names of Krishna, Shita, which are very cooling, very pacifying to the ears. Tad avadi, since that time, dadad antarmanasam shamyativa, my heart has become completely blissful. Anavakalita purvam kam avastam, and it is fixed in an unprecedented state of prema. So this is the potency of hearing the holy name, chanting the holy name, especially when heard from the mouth of a very exalted devotee. It has very immediate and profound effect in the hearer, like that. So in this way, of course, there is no end. There are so many books written, and in Vedic literatures also unlimited number of verses glorifying the holy name. But then again, we are short of time, so we will end the fourth limb with this last glorification of Rupa Goswami. And then now we will move on to the next limb, the 64th limb of devotional service. The fifth most potent limb is to reside in Mathura, or to reside in Vrindavan. Mathura means, generally it refers to Mathura Mandal. So he says that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in one of his books, he mentions that what is the meaning of Vrajavasi. Who is a Vrajavasi? He says, a Vrajavasi does not just refer to a person who physically stays there. He says there are two types of Vrajavasis. One who is physically staying there, but also his heart is in Vrindavan, his mind is in Vrindavan. The second category of Vrajavasi is he who may not be able to physically stay there in Vrindavan, but his heart is there in Vrindavan. So, therefore, and there is no third type. Someone may be physically staying in Vrindavan, but his heart may be in the cinema theatre or in the cricket ground. That is not Vrajavasi. Vrajavasi means the heart has to be in Vrindavan, even though physically he may be able to be there or he may not be able to be there. So, one of the most potent limbs, actually all the other 4 limbs become thousands of times more potent when performed in Vrindavan or Mayapur or Jagannath Puri. Because these places where Krishna himself has performed his pastimes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself has performed his pastimes, are extremely surcharged with tremendous potency. Therefore, these places are very, very potent places. Therefore, 3 times this limbs out of 64, this one limb comes 3 times. So, and the other limbs also, the other 4 limbs also get repeated at least once more. So, out of 64, these are not 64 limbs actually. It is less than 64. Rupa Goswami himself says, I have repeated few limbs because they are very important like that, especially these 5 limbs. So he quotes a verse from the Padma Purana again. Anyeshu punya tirteshu muktireva mahafalam. Anyeshu punya tirteshu muktireva mahafalam. Mahafalam, the greatest benediction that you can get by visiting the other holy places is mukti. Muktair prartya harer bhaktir maturayam tu labhyate. But only in Mathura or in Mathura Mandal does one get Hari Bhakti. Trivargada kaminam ya mumukshunam cha mokshada bhakti chor bhaktida kastam maturam nashrayed buddha. So he says, Trivargada, it can give dharma artha kama, kaminam, whoever desires it. Mumukshunam cha mokshada, if someone desires mukti, it will give moksha or mukti. Bhakti ichor bhaktida, if someone desires bhakti, staying in Mathura will give bhakti. Kastam buddha maturam na ashrayed. Therefore, who is that intelligent person who will not take shelter of Mathura? Aho madhupuri danya vaikunta cha gariyasi dinam ekam nivasena harav bhaktir prajayate. Aho madhupuri dhanya. Oh, how glorious is this Mathura Mandal. Vaikunta cha gariyasi. It is even more glorious than Vaikunta. Dinam ekam nivasena harav bhakti prajayate. Just by staying in Mathura for one day, one gets Hari Bhakti. So, there is another meaning that is given. Within Goloka Vrindavan, there are 2 parts. One is called as Gokula, another is called as Aishwarya Goloka. Gokula is where Krishna and Radharani are worshipped in just like Vrajavasis, in a very, very sweet mode. And in fact, that is the mode that is aspired by the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whereas there is another place called Aishwarya Goloka. In this Aishwarya Goloka, the Lord Krishna and Radharani are worshipped in a mode of awe and reverence. In fact, it is mentioned, those practitioners of Vaidhi Bhakti who continue their practice of Vaidhi but they worship Radha and Krishna. So when that Vaidhi never transforms into Raganuga and it becomes Bhava and Prema, then such people, after perfecting their bhakti, they cannot go to Vaikunta because Radha and Krishna are not there in Vaikunta. But at the same time, they cannot go to Goloka Vrindavan or Gokula because they don't desire that mood of worship. They want to worship Radha and Krishna but with lot of awe and reverence. So therefore such people are sent to this place called Aishwarya Golok, where Radha and Krishna are worshipped in a mood of awe and reverence, like that. So that is mentioned in Padma Puran, and it is also mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This similar theme is presented by Srila Rupa Goswami in Upadeshamrita also. In the 9th verse of Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami says, Vaikunta janito varamadupuri tatrapi rasotsavad vrindaranyamudara ramanad tatrapi govardhanah radha kundamihapi gokulapate premamrita plavanat kuryadasya virajato giritate sevam viveki nakah. He says, Vaikunta janito vara madhupuri. So Mathura is greater than Vaikunta. Why? Janito, the Supreme Lord Krishna was born there. Tatrapi, but there is one place greater than even Mathura. Tatrapi Vrindaranyam. The forests of Vrindavan are more glorious than even Mathura. Why? Rasotsavad. Because the Ras Leela happened in the forests of Vrindavan. Therefore, the forests of Vrindavan are more glorious than Mathura. But there is a place which is more glorious than even the 12 forests of Vrindavan. Or amongst the 12 forests of Vrindavan, the place called Govardhan is more glorious. Govardhanah, tatrapi Govardhanah. Govardhan is more glorious. Why? Udara Pani Ramanad. Because he was held by the magnanimous hands of Krishna. Govardhan is more glorious. But within that Govardhan area, the place called Radha Kund is most glorious. Radha Kunda Mihapi Gokulapate Premamrita Aplavanat. Because it overflows with the love of Krishna towards Radharani, Radha Kund is said to be the most glorious, most auspicious place in the whole of creation. Greater than Vaikunta, greater than Mathura, greater than Vrindavan forest, greater than Govardhan is Radha Kund. Kuryadasya virajato giritate sevam viveki nakaha. So therefore, that Radha, who is that intelligent person who would not want to serve Radha Kund, which is situated on the foothills of Govardhan Hill, at the foot of Govardhan Hill, like that. Kuryadasya virajato giritate sevam viveki nakaha. Like that, he glorifies, Rupa Goswami glorifies gradually, one after another. In this way, Mathura is more glorious than Vaikunta. And in Mathura, Vrindavan forest is most glorious. In Vrindavan forest, Govardhan is most glorious. And within all the places in and around Govardhan, Radha Kund is the most glorious. Like that. So we will end this section by discussing Srila Rupa Goswami's glorification of Mathura Mandal, of residing in Mathura, this limb. So he says, Tatabu Vikrita Kanti Shyamalayastatinyaha Sputita Navakadamba Alambiku Jadvirepa Niravadi Madurimna Manditeyam Katamme Manasi Kamapi Bhavam Kanana Shristanoti. He says, Kanana Shrihi, the splendor of Mathura's forest, Krita Kanti, which is made beautiful, Shyamala Tatinya, because of being present in the bank of Yamuna river. Kuja Dvirefa. Dvirefa refers to bumblebees. Kujat, they are sweetly singing. In the Yamuna forest, there are many sweetly singing bumblebees. Sputita Nava Kadamba Alambi, and they go and take shelter of the Kadamba flowers and fruits which are there in the Kadamba trees in that Vrindavan forest. Niravadi Madurimna Manditeyam. In this way, the whole Vrindavan forest in Mathura is filled with unlimited sweetness. Me manasi kam api bhavam tanoti. And when I see this, when I remember this, when I imagine this, my mind overflows in an extraordinary bhava. So, in this way, Rupa Goswami glorifies the stay in Mathura. How glorious it is, like that. So, in this way, we come to the end of the description of all the 64 items. So, I am sorry I took a very long time to cover this portion. It is a long section, but this in no way qualifies, I agree, and I apologize for that. This in no way would qualify as a overview of this section of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, because we discussed all these things in quite detail. Only the initial section, it started out as an overview, but then the association and the reciprocation was so wonderful and overwhelming. So at some point, without my notice, the overview course became actually an elaborate course only. So those of you who joined this course with the expectation that it would be an overview, I apologize to you, because by no means this course can be called as an overview course. So rather, now I feel that the initial few sections which I actually spoke in the form of an overview, maybe in future I will elaborate on those parts also, so that it will become a complete course. So this brings us to the end of this 64 limbs, and especially the 5 most potent limbs we discussed quite elaborately, except for this last limb. We did it quite fast, but otherwise we have done elaborate discussion of all the limbs. Rupa Goswami further says, Alaukika padarthanam achintya shakti ridrishi bhavam tad vishayam chapi ya sahaiva prakashayet. He says, achintya shakti, the inconceivable power, idrishi alaukika padarthanam, the inconceivable power of these extraordinary 5 angas is that ya prakashayet, is that it will manifest bhavam tad vishayam chapi. It will manifest bhava, and the object of that bhava is Krishna. It will manifest both bhava and Krishna sahaeva, at the same time, very quickly. So these 5 limbs are very, very potent, and if one can start, sincere practitioners who want to progress quickly in devotional service should actually start meditating on how they can increase their attachment for these 5 items. Attachment will increase only by staying in touch with these 5 limbs. So when we have to stay in touch with devotees, we have to stay in touch with Bhagavatam, we have to stay in touch with the deities, we have to stay in touch with the holy Dham, and we have to stay in touch with the holy name. So constant staying in touch, when we will get to know them more and more, we will develop affection for them. and that affection will be our saving grace. That affection is the fuel which can accelerate our progress in devotional service, like that. So in this way, the 64 limbs are over. Now we will discuss this theme of what are the primary and secondary benefits of performing these limbs of bhakti. What are the primary and secondary benefits? So Srila Rupa Goswami says, Kesham chit kvachid anganam yat shudram shruyate phalam bahirmukha pravrityetat kintu mukyam phalam ratihi. He says, in many scriptures, including Skanda Puran, Padma Puran, and even in Bhagavatam for that matter, in some verses which Srila Rupa Goswami has quoted, many secondary benefits were mentioned. Some verses said you can get mukti, some verses said you can get any desire you have, and some verses said that you can get material benefits, swarga, mokshada, and all that. Kintu mukyam phalam ratihi. The primary benefit of practicing these angas is bhava or prema, rati, Krishna rati. So, like that. The main result can be understood from the following verses. So he says, Akama sarvakamo va mokshakama udaradehi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. So he says that whoever has no material desires, all material desires or desire for mukti, an intelligent person will worship Krishna to fulfill those desires. Tivrena bhakti yogena. He will perform tivra bhakti to fulfill those desires. And also this verse on the 5th canto says, Satyam dishatyartitamartito nrinam naivartado yat punarartito yatah swayam vidatte bhajatam anichyatam ichchapidanam nijapada pallavam. So this verse says that the Supreme Lord certainly fulfills any desire that one may have, but na eva artada yat punarartitayata, but he fulfills those desires in such a way that the person will not come again and ask for the same desire to be fulfilled. Swayam vidatte bhajatam anichyatam ichchapidanam nijapada pallavam. Bhajatam, to the person who is worshipping him for some material desires, nijapada pallavam vidatte. Krishna gives his own lotus feet to him. Anichyatam, even though he may not want it. And how does that fulfill that desire? Because the lotus feet of Krishna is the superset of all the desires that one may have. Any desire that one may have is all fulfilled by worshipping the lotus feet of Krishna. So in this way, one need not feel that one will be deprived of all the other desires and one can get only Krishna prem. One need not feel like that. But the mukyam phalam, but the real valuable thing that bhakti can give or the holy name can give is actually rati, affection for Krishna. And this is indicated from the series of verses describing Ambarish Maharaj. Savai mana Krishna padara vindayor vacham sivaikuntha gunanu varnane karau harer mandira marjanadishu shrutam chakarachyuta satkatodaye. Starting with this verse, it ends with this verse. Padau hare kshetra padanu sarpane shiro rishikesha padabi vandane kamam cha dasye natu kama kamyaya yatottama shloka janashraya ratihi. Why was Ambarish Maharaj engaging all his limbs in performing the limbs of bhakti? Why was he engaging his mind in thinking of Krishna, remembering Krishna, hands in cleaning the temple of Krishna, legs in taking him towards the temple of Krishna. Yata uttama shloka jana ashraya ratihi. So he was feeling, if by doing all these things, one day I will get the same love that these exalted devotees have for Krishna. Yata uttama shloka jana ashraya ratihi. One day, this love which has taken shelter of these exalted devotees, uttama shloka jana, I will get that rati, I will get that love. With that desire, he was performing the limbs of devotional service. That's what Rupa Goswami is mentioning here. Kintu mukyam phalam ratihi. Even though some secondary benefits may be mentioned in the scriptures, the real benefit of performing the limbs of devotional service is actually rati, love for Krishna. However, for those persons with material inclinations, material results are mentioned. For the real devotees, rati is the result, because rati is produced simply by hearing about the qualities of the Lord. Even though this worship is easy, it produces results that cannot be attained by other processes. Therefore, bhava or rati is the main result of practicing the angas of bhakti. Okay, so tomorrow, so we will end today's discussion here. Tomorrow when we start discussing, we have just few more topics left. Maybe maximum in 1 or 2 discussions we will end, and then maybe 1 session, or if need be, we will have 2 sessions for question and answers. Most likely in 1 session. So today is 7th day. Maybe 2 more days to complete the book, and the 10th day we can have Q&A. So this is my plan, but depending on how things pan out, maybe if on some topic we need a more elaborate discussion, I may extend it by 1 additional day, but that we will see. But we still have a few themes. How Varnashram duties are not limbs of bhakti. Again the same theme Srila Rupa Goswami will discuss. And then the next theme that we will discuss is how Jnana and Vairagya are not limbs of bhakti, but rather he mentions that the goals of Jnana and Vairagya and other processes are achieved by bhakti alone. That will be the 3rd theme that we will discuss. And then the 4th theme that we will discuss is how a taste for bhakti destroys all material attachments. In this theme we will discuss about the Yukta Vairagya and Falgu Vairagya. So this will be the 4th theme. And then we will also discuss that how other prominent processes which may look like bhakti but they are not bhakti. They are not limbs of devotional service. This we will see. This will be the 5th theme that we will discuss. And then all good qualities automatically take shelter of a devotee. So one need not practice the other paths. This will be the 6th theme that we will discuss. And then finally we will conclude by discussing how bhakti can be perfected by prominently practicing one limb or many limbs. This will be the 7th theme. So in this way, we have 7 more themes to complete. So most likely in 2 days we can complete, and then 1 day we can take for question and answers. So thank you very much for your very patient listening. It has been a very amazing experience sharing these very important topics with all of you. Hoping to have your association for the coming 3-4 days also. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai. Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu ki jai. Hare Krishna.